Hi there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So, as you can see, slightly unusual format today. I've actually got a guest, my first guest, actually, Gordon, on the show today or on our YouTube channel. And the aim is today we're going to be launching a series of documentary-style videos starring, well, Gordon for one, but other American clients that we have talking about France and how their move to France and how their journey to France has taken place with the help of French Connections HCB, and yeah, hopefully covering topics that will be of real interest to you guys, whether you be moving from the US, from Canada, from Australia, or even from Great Britain, but more specifically orientated this time on the US kind of centric focus. And of course, Gordon is from the US and lives in the US as his first residence. And he actually chose Gordon's story with French Connections goes way back because we've had quite a journey with you guys. You and Deb have been featured multiple times on the channel. Probably all you guys watching us will be used to hearing from them. And no, I'm not paying Gordon. He's coming here freely. And of course, Gordon and Deb chose to contract us to renovate their dream home in France. So we'll be talking about that in future series. There are a few videos about that and interviews about you moving to France, which you can find and check out on the channel. For those clicking and tuning in today, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference to us. And of course, please use the comment box if you've got any specific topics or questions that you'd like to cover. But today, more to the point, we're going to be talking about a day in the life of an American in France. So specifically in Gordon's life when he's in France, because I'm right in saying at the moment, Gordon, you France is still your second home, although I hear there are some discussions about over that. For those that haven't followed our channel and are new to French Connections, we are a dedicated company to help relocate people from all over the globe to France. We're unique in the set that we bring I would like to say, an American or English speaking side of consumer and customer service, but also more specifically, all of our team members are French and French people. They're actually, and although I sound extremely British, I was actually born and raised in France, educated in France, and it makes a huge difference when we're on the phone to various entities in France. We understand the way of things need to be done, and I've also got a huge amount of contacts. So those who have done a bit more research on me, you'll find that I manage many companies these days. Yeah, one of which is also a renovations firm. So we don't just tell you about how to do things, we actually do them as well, as Gordon is testament to, and use our services from A to Z, really, and keeps on helping us create new ones, right? I think Gordon's been extremely helpful with those things, and been source of inspiration for us. So, again, thank you for all of your help and business over the years, Gordon, but also has been, privy, I think, to the full experience with us. So that's why I wanted Gordon to be our first guest on this new series of episodes dedicated to US clients moving to France. So the topic today, a day in the life of an American in France. Gordon and I were just saying before we started the show how many times we've had this conversation informally, not being recorded. It's just something that I wanted to bring to a wider audience. And this is going to be, of course, now live for the world to see, Gordon, so no pressure. But the way that you always speak about France, how passionate you are about this opportunity, shall we say, to move without focusing too much on the wonderful work that we've done right beforehand, but also the challenges that you faced. But I think what I'm really interested, and I think what people would like to hear about, is what actually does it mean? So what does it mean when you're in France? So now to paint the scene, guys. Gordon purchased a property that I used to own. We renovated it in full to his spec. He did all of that at a distance. We did all of that in 7 months. We then realized that Gordon and Deb wanted to stay longer in France, so we helped them with their visa application. So they've now got a long stay visitor visa, so they can come and go as they please from France. We've helped them with a multitude of other things. So now they're settled in France, shall we say, that you've got your home, you've got
Yeah.
you've got your access, you've got a car, actually your second car. You've been through two cars so far, which is currently stored in my garage, or shall we call showroom, because I've got a bit of an issue with motor vehicles, as you well know. Um, and so what we'd like to hear about is this stories, every day. I mean, we focus on, I think, lots of things that we've discussed together is what do you do in Miron, downtown Miron? What happens every day? So, far ahead. So what does a typical day look like for you, Gordon?
Well, so Deb and I had visited France as vacationers, simply for holiday, probably 7 times. A week in Paris, a week or two somewhere else. And the vision always was we wanted to be able to walk to things. Love being in Paris where you could walk to restaurants and the bakery in the morning and that sort of thing. And even when we would find ourselves in a village in Burgundy or Normandy, we wanted to be close to services like that. So as we started looking for a place and we found Mirande, it really settled that for us. So what does a day in the life look like? I get up a little bit earlier than Deb. I walk over to the bakery. I get a chocolatine, a pain au chocolat in the north, and maybe a baguette or something. Come back, have breakfast, and then in the mornings we typically run our errands. So we'll go to the supermarket on Mondays. In Mirande is the marché, and we go over there and we pick out our vegetables and fruits and meat for the week. It's been on Monday since the 13th century, which is something I just love. We might stop in the new patisserie in town, pick out something for dessert, and then we'll go back. And in the afternoon, we have phone calls that we do telework from France, and we do some of that in the afternoon. And then in the evening, we'll have a cocktail and then head over to dinner. We used to arrive at about 7 or 7:30. We were always the first ones at the restaurant. We've discovered that if we show up a little bit later, everyone else comes as well. And so we usually have dinner in town. There's a number of great restaurants, and we enjoy, going and just visiting with people there.
That's wonderful. I think what I always admire about you guys is you've put yourself out there, as in context. You do. I think you do a great job of going, finding clubs, discovering, activities. You actually tell me quite often about things that I, as a native. And by the way, guys, I actually grew up in the town of Miron, went to school in Miron, and played on the square and know all of the areas. And Gordon often teaches me, quite a few things that are going on in the local community. So you've managed to make quite a few friends as well. I think that's something
Yeah.
and you've got quite a lot of a schedule around that. I mean, it never ceased to amaze me. You were like, you're here, there, and everywhere. It's like, so did you want to tell us more about what the activities that you might do, other than just going out for meals and things that
Sure. Sure. We have made a number of friends, and so we started when we first when we were first there last year, 2022, I guess it was, right after the house was finished. We really set the intention that we would be part of the community as much as we could.
Yep.
So we ate out as frequently as we could. And again, there's about enough restaurants in Miran to keep us busy throughout the week. But the intent was because they're all family run, right? It's all the same people every time, to get to know people a little bit, to start to have the conversations and feel like we were building up that network. After having been there for 3 months the first time, we sort of came away with really a group of people who were super supportive of us, who were anticipating our return, who would ask, when are you coming back? When are you leaving? And they were looking forward to that along with us, of course. In the summertime, there's a lot more going on in Iran, and this is where we often tell Richard and Julie what's happening in town and ask if they're coming over. At least once a week, if not more often, on the square, there'll be a concert. There was a sort of a play for children at one point with puppets. There's concerts and all sorts of things that are going on. The edges of the square fill up from the restaurants with the pizza place or the cordon bleu. They'll bring out chairs, and all of a sudden, hundreds of people show up in this little town to listen to a free concert. And it's wonderful because all summer long it's continuing on, and there's always something going on.
And so one thing that you've always told me, I think it's worth telling our audience as well, is and maybe you might not really want to share this by being American, and uh, but one thing that you've often repeated to me is that the fact that you felt so well, one, welcome, but that you spoke to more people in France than you knew in a way in the place that you've lived for 20, 30 years.
Right. In the U.S., we live in the suburbs.
Hopefully, none of your neighbors are watching right now, 'cause otherwise,
We love our neighbors. We
yeah.
absolutely love them. But we live in the suburbs, and people pull in. We live in a cul-de-sac. People drive their car in. The garage door comes up. The car goes in. The door goes down. And especially in the wintertime, we live in Minnesota, where 6 months out of the year it's cold, it's snowy, and definitely the garage goes up, car goes in, door goes down. We often don't see our neighbors for months at a time. And we lived in the same place for 30 years and honestly don't talk to people that often. In Mirande, because people are out on the street more, people don't drive their cars everywhere, and our car sits for days on end. Most of the week it sits until we have to go to the supermarché or go to visit Richard. Um, we're walking. One of the things about going to the bakery in the morning that I love, and I was talking with a friend about this recently. He said, "What is the thing that if you had to tell people why you love France so much, what is it?" One, it's being able to walk to the bakery. I can't walk to any services here very conveniently. That's one, but it's not just that. It's the fact that I see two or three people on the way there. I see Jean every morning. He's 96 years old. I don't understand half of what he's saying, but it's really fun to talk to him. We have a very brief conversation, ask how he's doing. He says, like an old man, and we say, have a great day and on my way. And it's just wonderful having that personal connection with the people there who we've just met. But we feel almost as much at home in Mirande as we do where we have lived for 30 years, more than.
Yeah, I think it was. It's ironical for those that don't know Miran. We'll send a link in the location. It's not far where we have our home and head office, if you like, French connections. Although we have other offices these days. But in context, Miran ironically hosted the biggest country and western festival in Europe, I believe, when I was a child. And so, I mean, there's many things that happened. It's not as big
The
as it used
Charlotte
to
Air
be.
Guitar Championships, the national French
Uh,
National Air Guitar Championships were there.
hosted in Miramar. So there you go. So, but the point being is that when I told the locals, look, I'm launching this company. I'm going to recruit all of my old friends. We're gonna bring Americans, English people more than before to the area, and they all thought I was crazy. And then because we chose an area where I actually own the building, and it was known because I've got a business underneath there. We got our laundry, one of our laundrettes underneath, which was a sort of crazy idea at the beginning. It's done incredibly well. And Gordon's, whole property was a shambles. You go and check out our other videos. You'll see. What a brave man we have here, Gordon, and Deb. That's not on the
And
video,
Deb,
but
and Deb,
we'll bring into future ones, of course. But yeah, it's just the locals really took so well to this. Maybe it was the Americana that had already been sold and been missing for so long. Maybe you need some, cowboy boots and stuff back on there. But the point being is, I think that a lot of people might be scared of that, and there might be a lot of people might say, what should I do? Well, what happens past? Because a lot of you guys watching might be thinking about permanently moving. And so it's interesting that, Gordon, you went the other way around. You've completely gone nearly full circle, but it was always, I want something that's finished. Then you ended up with a project that we did quite quickly. You moved
yes,
in. You then were not finding enough flexibility in the 90 days. You've then moved to a 12-month visa. And now you're considering potentially in the background thinking, well, actually, would we spend more time in France than we do in the US? But within that, I think a lot of people that might be watching today are thinking, well, what would we do past the summertime? What would is there still enough? Of course, remote working is a possibility. You guys are the time zone dependent. I'm sure. There's part of the states where that might become complex. And I find it as well. Currently, I'm sat in the UK because we've just attended the show. I'll be traveling back to France. My colleagues that are just 1 hour away, I can find a slight problem with, booking appointments and making sure, oh crap, it's run out of daytime there. And so I'm sure you've come across those issues. Um, but it's really fascinating to hear that you've got your routines, you've got your things, you're there with. And one thing I'd like to, before we move on to other bits and go to other parts of the episodes, and of course we'll be having you back. But another thing that I'm really curious about, and I think we've discussed an awful lot, is the quality of food, the local food. Do you want to tell me about the local cows? And sorry for those vegetarian, vegans, etc. out there. We also cater for those because we do produce and all. But the local butchers, I know you always laughed and you said to me, oh, in the States we say, well, it might be in the same state. Here it's in the same village, right? That's the one
No,
of the stuff.
yeah, absolutely. So, in the US, when people talk about buying local, there was something I saw the other day. It was like, within a 4-hour drive or something like that. I mean, you have to cast a pretty broad net to find a variety of especially, sort of non-traditional, maybe duck or something like that. Yeah, I think in Minnesota, there's one producer that I can think of. In Iran, on the menu at the restaurants, it'll usually tell you where the products are from. So at the one restaurant in town, they have duck that's from a farm about 4 kilometers away. So the ducks could actually walk into town. That's what we always joke. And the beef is often the vache mirandaise, which means the cows from around Mirande. And again, we sort of joke and say, well, the one that was in the field the other day is getting offloaded at the butcher on Thursday. Everything is very fresh. Everything is clearly local, and it just really the quality is outstanding. Whether it's the beef and the lamb and the pork that you get locally, or the produce.
Yeah, sure. And by the way, for those thinking about moving to France, I learned this off my colleague insurance broker Fabien, that apparently the Gers, which is the region in which Mirande is located, not far off the capital, Auch, which is famous for its food and culinary, and Monsieur Daguin. And the Hôtel de France, which has got a Michelin star. But I think what is really, really cool about the Gers is that apparently it's the place in France where people live the longest. So maybe it's due to the
Really?
very laid back attitude or the very local produce. For those, jumping through the roof, that vegan, vegetarians saying, that we're only maybe catering for those meat eaters. I think I actually consider myself as predominantly vegetarian actually these days. I only eat meat if it's really of great quality. And I see it all the time. We've had these conversations so often now. I haven't lived in the US for quite a while, and I think very fondly of my time spent in America. Um, but the point being is that I see it when I'm here in the UK. The quality of food, even in the sort of higher end
Mhm.
supermarkets, which we don't really have in France. There's no supermarket snobbery really. But they only serve, whether it be fruit or meat or whatever, vegetables, whatever you're looking for, very, very seasonal, if possible, as local as you've just described. But the
Right.
same for the strawberries, the same for the thing. Everything, the melon lecture, everything is produced in the
Right.
area, and you only consume it when it is right, and when it's right for. And so I think even those fellow vegetarians, etc., that are listening to this today, the thing is that for every part of it, there's a cater of local produce. The local, the variety of local source stuff is amazing. So for one, but even what's not local, I mean, there's an extremely complex system of delivery of food and merchandise in supermarkets, which is all directed in Rungis in Paris. And it's done daily. It starts at watch a documentary on it. It's amazing. It's fascinating. But there's this whole infrastructure in France of very much agricultural richness and desire to promote local local stuff, which doesn't come at a premium. I think you were mentioning this. One of the things in one of our newsletters, guys, if you're interested in reading about it, check out our website, have a look. Gordon's done with our creative writer Lizzie a fantastic review on France and the comparison with the US, but in terms of cost, etc. And you're a spreadsheet kind of guy. I don't think you'll mind me saying that, Gordon. You're a spreadsheet kind of guy, and I mean this in very, very, fondness of heart. You'll actually analyze what the costs are, and I think you've done that.
Yeah, I started. There was something that we bought, a steak or something, and it just struck me, high quality meat, and I thought to myself, that's a per kilo price. In the U.S., of course, you see the per pound price, which is about
Yep.
half. But it was
Reasonable people that you are, keeping British measures, right?
that's doing our part. It just struck me that it was a lot less expensive, and so I started keeping track, because I am kind of that way. And except for gasoline, petrol for the British listeners, essentially everything is about 60% of the cost of what we pay in the U.S. today. Food, the going out to dinner, and I'm not even counting things like French wine and French cheese, which you would expect to be less expensive. I'm talking about, just sort of buying day to day things in the supermarket, in the marché, wherever it may be, is just a lot less expensive than it is in the U.S.
Yeah, so that's it's always a fascination for me. What I find with the UK is the cost per quality in restaurants. So the one frustration I have with France, if I've got to be honest, let's French bash. I've got a French passport, I was born in France, so I can French bash and British bash, right? Okay, so in context, what really angers me having a young family in France, or not angers me, but it does put us to is that you can't eat very early or outside of hours in restaurants. Um, and that, for us with young families is quite a difficult thing. I mean, we adapt ourselves and, we have more home foods, and we cook and we do more stuff at home. And it's a social gathering at your house, which is, it's not a problem. It's just that in that context, I think that's one of my frustrations. However, on the other end of this, we we really see that in the UK, the quality of what you get for the money. I think we went to a very average place and it cost like what it would cost to eat at the Hotel de France for two kids and two adults. It was crazy.
Well, we've enjoyed those at-home meals, Richard, and I think our record is 5 hours for lunch, with you.
Yeah. Well, that's
which is part of the fun. That's part of why we love France, is people take the time to enjoy not only the great food but each other's company. And yes, people do take 2 hour lunches, not every day, but from time to time, and especially on the weekends. A lengthy meal is not uncommon.
Sure. And look, Gordon, I think we're going to have you back on these topics. We're going to expand on more. The next one will be just for your information, guys, as you might want to tune in regularly. We'll try to do this every other week, so once every 2 weeks, because this is going to be a write-up. There'll also be a newsletter that follows this. But with the next topic we're going to do is American versus French culture. So the key differences explained, and we'll talk about this lunch attitude, what we'd call maybe a Spanish attitude, mañana. Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. I don't think the French actually have that so much. They just won't put it in the diary quite as quickly. So those will be the next topics to come in, and we'll, in the same format, try and get maybe another fellow American to bring a bit of mix to the party, not to just you guys all think that I've got Gordon here on commission. So again, Gordon, I'm sure the viewers will have loved to hear your version today of events. We'll do more of these. Please stay tuned in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And obviously, far as any comments below, we'll get back to you straight away. And if you're thinking to start your journey in France and you'd like to have a chat with us, please feel free to book an appointment with myself. And I'm sure Gordon as well, if any fellow Americans want to reach out to you and have a chat about how it all works, I'm sure you've always been happy to do so far. So we'll try and keep it that way. Look, Gordon, again, thanks so much for everything you've done for us so far. and of course for joining me today. It's been great to see you as usual, and we look forward to catching up with you on other shows to come. Guys, don't forget to tune in next time.